I swear, the moment she stepped off that greyhound, time stopped. The sun was setting behind her, casting this soft, golden halo around her braids. She clutched a single suitcase, looking lost, confused, maybe even scared. And me? I was just standing there, holding a little cardboard sign with the name, Ivana, written on it. Except, she wasn't Ivana. No pale blonde. No Eastern European accent. No tiny frame in a tight dress like the agency had promised. Just a tall, beautiful black woman with fierce eyes and a quiet kind of strength, and I knew right then something had gone very, very wrong. But even before she spoke a word, something inside me whispered, maybe this isn't a mistake at all. She walked up to me slowly, eyes scanning the crowd behind me, like maybe someone else was supposed to be holding that sign. "Are you Mr. Carson?" she asked, her southern drawl soft but steady. I nodded, still half dumbfounded. She gave a tired smile. "Name's Naomi. I think there's been some kind of mix-up." "Yeah. No kidding." Back at the truck, we sat in awkward silence while I called the agency. They were just as confused. Apparently, someone on their end had swapped profiles or hit the wrong confirmation. Naomi had been processed under my name, and the original bride, Ivana, had been rerouted to a man in Idaho. They offered to fix it right away, send me the bride I actually ordered and arrange for Naomi's return trip. But I glanced over at her, sitting straight-backed in the passenger seat, trying to hide the way her fingers trembled in her lap. And something about that moment told me this wasn't just her mistake. It was mine too, if I let her walk away. By the time we pulled into my ranch, word had already spread. Small town, you know how it is. A new face shows up, especially one that doesn't fit the mold, and suddenly every curtain's pulled back and every porch light's flickering like it's Judgment Day. My sister called that night, voice sharp and loaded with concern. "Wait, you're telling me they sent you a black woman instead of that Russian girl? Carson, you better call that agency right now. You know how folks around here are." I did know. And they didn't disappoint. At the feed store, old man Harley muttered loud enough for Naomi to hear. "Guess the agency's running out of white girls." Even my ranch hand, Jake, who once spent 2 years begging a Canadian pen pal to marry him, asked, "Aren't you gonna get your money back?" But I wasn't thinking about refunds. I was thinking about the quiet way Naomi unpacked her things into the guest house without a word. About how she refused to cry, even though I could see it building behind her eyes. And that night, after everyone had something to say, I couldn't sleep. Because for the first time in years, there was someone else breathing on this land besides me. And maybe, just maybe, that wasn't such a bad thing. The next morning, I found her sitting on the porch of the guest house, sipping coffee from an old chipped mug I didn't even remember owning. She looked out across the fields like she'd seen them before in a dream, quiet, distant, full of something I couldn't name. "I wasn't supposed to come here," she said softly, without turning her head. I didn't say anything. Just sat beside her and waited. "My mama passed 6 months ago," she continued. "She was all I had. After the funeral, my landlord gave me a week to leave. Said she was the only reason I got to stay that long." She looked down at her hands. "I didn't have much left. No job. No family. No one waiting for me. Then that agency posted an ad looking for strong, willing women, folks who didn't have anything to lose." She let out a bitter laugh. "Guess I checked every box." I stared at her, stunned. All this time, I thought she was a mistake. But she wasn't some lost package delivered to the wrong door. She was a woman who had lost everything and still had the strength to show up anyway. And maybe, just maybe, that meant more than I had the words for. "I can leave in a couple days," she said, still staring at the field. "Once the agency sorts it out, I'll be out of your hair." I shook my head slowly. "Ain't no rush. You've come all this way. The guest house is yours for as long as you need." She turned to look at me, eyes narrowing just a little. "Why?" It was a fair question. I could have said it was the decent thing to do. Could have said I felt bad. Could have blamed the agency. But none of that would have been the truth. So I just shrugged and said, "Because you showed up. And that matters." She hesitated, then nodded once. Just once. No smiles. No gratitude speeches. Just mutual understanding. We agreed on a simple deal. She'd stay for a few days, help out around the ranch if she felt like it, and wait until the agency figured out where she was supposed to go. It wasn't much of a plan. But something about it felt right. Like maybe, for the first time in a long while, we were both exactly where we were supposed to be, even if we didn't know it yet. By the end of the week, Naomi had only gone into town twice, and both times she came back quieter than when she left. I tried not to press. But I knew what was happening. The stares. The whispers. The fake smiles that froze the second she walked past. This town wasn't subtle. At the diner, old couples would go silent when we sat down. At the hardware store, a clerk, accidentally, rang her up twice. And outside the post office, one of the local church ladies leaned in and muttered, "Sweetheart, folks like you don't usually last long here." But the one that lit a fire in me? It was Jake, my ranch hand. The guy who used to shovel manure and drink my beer. One afternoon, I caught him saying to a neighbor, "Guess the boss is trying something exotic. Hope it don't mess up the crops." That was the last day Jake worked on my land. And when Naomi heard about it, she didn't smile. Didn't gloat. Didn't even say thank you. She just said, "You didn't have to do that." But she was wrong. I did. Because if she was strong enough to show up in a place where the soil itself seemed to reject her, then the least I could do was stand beside her in it. I started noticing little things. A folded bus schedule tucked into her Bible. Receipts for groceries she never asked me to pay for. A small envelope labeled, "For fare," tucked behind the sugar jar in the guesthouse kitchen. Naomi was planning to leave. She didn't say it out loud, but I could feel it in the way she moved, keeping a little distance between us no matter how kind I tried to be. She swept the porch, fixed a loose shutter, even helped patch a barn wall after a bad wind. Always busy, always useful, but never fully here. Every night, I'd see her silhouette in the guest house window, writing letters, maybe, or just sitting there, waiting for something to tell her it was okay to go. And I didn't blame her. This town didn't make her feel welcome. The agency had tossed her around like cargo. And I was just some quiet farmer who barely knew what to say half the time. But what Naomi didn't know was this. Every morning, before she woke up, I left a carton of fresh eggs by her door. Fixed her boots when the soles started peeling. And quietly, without asking, built a second garden bed beside mine, just in case she decided to stay long enough to plant something. I never told her that. Because part of me was afraid, she'd already made up her mind. The storm rolled in fast, angry skies, howling wind, rain that hit the roof like gravel. I was out checking the lower fence when it happened, 2 whole sections ripped clean off. If the cattle got spooked, they'd bolt straight into the hills. I didn't have time to think. Just grabbed wire, tools, and a flashlight. Didn't even realize Naomi had followed me until I saw her, soaked to the skin, holding a hammer like it was her birthright. "I'm not leaving you out here alone," she shouted over the wind. I wanted to protest. Tell her to go back inside. That it was dangerous. That I had it handled. But she was already at the post, sleeves rolled up, hands trembling from cold, but steady as hell. For the next 4 hours, we worked side by side in the mud and lightning, driving stakes, pulling wire, wrestling with the storm itself. She never once asked to stop. Never once gave up. When it was over, we stood there, drenched and covered in dirt, staring at what we'd managed to hold together. "You didn't have to come out here," I finally said, breathless. She looked at me, eyes fierce through the rain. "You think you're the only one with something to protect?" That night, I watched her walk back to the guest house like a damned soldier returning from war. And for the first time, I didn't just see her as the woman who showed up by mistake. I saw her as someone who belonged. The county held its annual harvest dance the following weekend, cheap lights strung across the barn, a bluegrass band tuning up in the corner, and the same old folks two-stepping in circles like they did every year since the war. I hadn't been in years. But this time, I asked Naomi to come with me. She hesitated. You sure that's a good idea? No, I said, but I'm going anyway. Would rather not go alone. She showed up in a simple floral dress, boots I'd cleaned the night before, and that same guarded expression she wore the day she arrived, like the whole world was still waiting to judge her. And it was. The second we walked in, the music didn't miss a beat, but the room got quieter. People turned. Heads tilted. Even the band leader flinched when he saw her at my side. A few folks whispered. One woman clutched her pearls like Naomi was the devil himself. But I didn't let go of her hand. Not once. I led her to the center of the floor, under the soft glow of paper lanterns, and we danced, clumsy, stiff, but real. And then I said it, loud enough for anyone within earshot to hear. She's the strongest person I've ever met. Naomi didn't cry. She didn't smile. She just looked at me like, for the first time, maybe she didn't have to run anymore. And the whispers? They kept whispering. But I swear, they started sounding a little quieter. 3 days after the dance, a letter arrived. Cream envelope. Fancy seal. Neatly typed. Naomi found it first, sitting on the front steps of the guest house, just like the eggs I used to leave her. She didn't open it right away. But I saw the way her face shifted the second she read the return address. She didn't bring it up at breakfast. Didn't mention it when we fixed the barn door or fed the calves. But that night, when I passed by the guest house window, I saw her packing. Neat folds. Quiet movements. No wasted motion. She was leaving. Later, I found the letter on the kitchen table. My name at the top. Dear Mr. Carson, we regret the mix-up, and are prepared to send the original bride you requested at no cost to you. Ms. Naomi Jackson will be refunded and returned to her place of origin immediately upon request. Returned. Like a broken tool. I held that letter in my hand for a long time, heart pounding like I'd just been shot. They called her a mistake. And I'd let them, until now. I walked out to the guest house just before dawn. The sky was still bruised with night, and the dew hadn't yet lifted off the grass. My boots crunched quietly on the gravel, like the land itself was holding its breath. The door was unlocked. Inside, her suitcase sat by the bed, zipped and ready. Neater than it had been the day she arrived. Her boots were lined up beside it, polished clean. She hadn't packed in anger. She'd packed in silence. In surrender. I turned and saw her at the tiny table, facing the window, her back to me. She didn't flinch when I stepped in. You read it, she said flatly. I did. I figured you'd say yes. I didn't. She turned then, eyes tired. Why not? She's everything you asked for. Blonde. Young. Quiet. Pretty. I asked for a woman who'd stay, I said. Turns out she already arrived. Her breath caught. Just for a second. But she looked away again. Doesn't matter, she said. This town will never accept me. I walked over slowly, set a small velvet box on the table between us. They don't have to, I said. I do. She stared at the box like it might explode. And then, finally, looked at me. Really looked at me. And in that moment, I didn't see fear in her eyes anymore. I saw the beginning of something she hadn't let herself believe in for a long time. She didn't open the box right away. Just stared at it like she wasn't sure it was real. Like her hands had touched too many broken promises to trust one more. I knelt beside her, not dramatic, not rehearsed. Just honest. My mama always said love don't come how you picture it, I said. Comes how you need it. And Naomi, you weren't what I ordered. But you're exactly what I needed. Her lip trembled. She tried to speak but couldn't. And when she finally opened the box, it wasn't anything flashy, just a simple silver band with a single stone, like the land we stood on. Honest. Solid. Pure. You sure? She whispered. Never been more sure of anything. Outside, the sun was finally rising. The fields shimmered like they'd been waiting for this light all along. She looked at the suitcase one last time, and then quietly pushed it back under the bed. That's how I knew she chose to stay. Not because she had to, but because, for the first time in her life, someone chose her back.